They sold her the way one sells an unwanted chair, quietly, with shame hidden behind practical words. Eliza had learned early that silence was safer than protest. Her family had always said it gently at first. "You're too plain, too quiet, too forgettable." In a house where beauty was currency and charm was survival, Eliza was considered a loss. Her sisters were praised for their smiles and their shining hair, while Eliza learned to lower her eyes and work harder than anyone else. When drought came and debts piled high, it was decided without ceremony that she would be sent away to work as a servant on a distant ranch. No farewell party, no tears. Just a handshake, a few coins, and a wagon waiting at dawn. Eliza didn't cry as the farm disappeared behind her. She had cried all her tears years ago. The ranch belonged to Caleb Hartman, a man whispered about in nearby towns, a rich rancher known for his vast land, iron discipline, and strange refusal to marry despite endless offers. When Eliza arrived, dusty and thin, the other workers barely noticed her. But Caleb did. Not because she was beautiful, she wasn't by the world's measure, but because she stood still while others fidgeted, because her eyes carried something familiar. Endurance without bitterness. Caleb watched her work in silence, saw how she treated animals gently, how she fixed broken things instead of discarding them, how she never complained even when her hands bled. Over weeks, his attention deepened. He began finding reasons to speak to her, asking her thoughts. Listening, truly listening, in a way no one ever had before. Eliza didn't understand it at first. She had been trained to believe she was invisible, but Caleb saw her clearly. Where others saw plainness, he saw peace. Where others saw weakness, he saw strength that did not need to shout. One evening, as the sun bled gold over the fields, Caleb realized a truth that startled him. This woman, sold away as worthless, was the only face that brought him calm. And for the first time in his powerful, lonely life, he feared losing something he hadn't even dared to claim. The ranch changed after that realization, though no one could say exactly how. Caleb began defending Eliza openly, silencing cruel remarks with a single look. He gave her responsibilities beyond her station, trusting her judgment without hesitation. Eliza struggled with the attention, haunted by the belief that affection was temporary and conditional. When news reached her family that the rich rancher favored the plain girl they had discarded, they returned, smiling, apologetic, hungry. They spoke of mistakes and blood ties, of forgiveness and shared fortune. Eliza listened, trembling, expecting Caleb to decide for her as everyone else always had. But he didn't. He waited. And in that waiting, Eliza found her voice. She told them calmly that she was not an object to be reclaimed once valuable. She spoke of nights spent unloved, of being measured and found lacking, of the quiet strength it took to survive without kindness. Her family left in shame, and Eliza stood taller than she ever had. That night, Caleb confessed, not with grand speeches, but with honesty. He told her that wealth had shown him many faces, but hers was the only one that felt like home. He asked her not to belong to him, but to choose him. Eliza wept then, not from pain, but from release. She chose him freely, and in doing so reclaimed herself. Their union was not a fairy tale of sudden transformation. Eliza did not become dazzling overnight. She remained plain to the world, but to Caleb she was irreplaceable. Together they built a life rooted in respect, where worth was not measured by beauty but by loyalty, kindness, and truth. And years later, when travelers asked the rancher how he found such peace, Caleb would smile and say that sometimes the world throws away its greatest treasure simply because it doesn't shine loudly enough. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that true value often hides in silence, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories of forgotten souls, quiet strength and love that sees beyond the surface, because the next story might speak directly to you. Peace never arrives without being tested, and Eliza learned this truth the hard way. Though life on the high ranch had softened into a rhythm of shared mornings and quiet evenings, whispers followed her like dust on the wind. People could accept a rich rancher's choices only up to a point, and many could not forgive him for choosing a woman they deemed unremarkable. Guests came to the ranch with polite smiles that faded the moment Eliza turned her back. They praised Caleb's success and questioned his judgment in the same breath. Eliza heard more than they realized. Years of being overlooked had sharpened her awareness. At night, when the ranch slept, doubt crept into her heart. She wondered if love could truly survive the weight of public scorn. Caleb noticed the change in her, the way her laughter grew quieter, the way she hesitated before entering rooms full of people. One evening, after a particularly cruel encounter with visiting elites, Eliza confessed her fear that she was holding him back. She told him she had spent her whole life being less, and she was terrified that one day he would see her as the world did. Caleb listened without interruption, then did something no one had ever done for her before. He told her his own story of loneliness. He spoke of growing up valued only for what he owned, not who he was, of women who admired his wealth but never his silence. He told her that she was not a burden but a refuge. Yet fate was not finished testing them. A sudden illness swept through the ranch, threatening livestock and livelihood alike. Advisors urged Caleb to send Eliza away for safety, claiming her presence weakened his authority. Instead, she stayed. She worked beside him day and night, nursing animals, organizing workers, making hard decisions with calm resolve. When the crisis passed, it was Eliza the workers praised, not for beauty but for courage. Slowly, perception shifted. Respect replaced mockery, and Eliza realized something profound. She was no longer surviving someone else's judgment, she was living her own truth. Years later, when children ran through the fields and the ranch flourished stronger than ever, Eliza stood watching the sunset beside Caleb, no longer questioning her worth. She understood now that being plain had never been her flaw, it had been her shield. And if this story taught you that quiet strength can outlast cruelty, that love rooted in respect can rewrite destiny, then subscribe to the channel. Because the next story may remind you that what the world rejects, fate often crowns.